Thanks for joining us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, coming to you from our brand new studios, which we love in our new building. First Star Logistics, they do everything first class. Everything is top shelf. So is our guest, Peter King. When you start thinking about who's who of the National Football League, you think about all these players, all these coaches. Peter King, without playing a snap, is an NFL legend. A football who's who of the National Football League. I mean, he is a writer at heart. The written word is what he's all about. But also outstanding on radio, television, you name it, any form of media that involved the National Football League, Peter King was as good as there was, bar none. Peter King has decided to retire from the National Football League. He will be sorely missed. In fact, I'm not sure people are going to let him retire from the National Football League. We shall see. But wanted to give Peter King his just due. I think you're going to enjoy it. What a great call you made to join us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. We are in our new studio, in our new building. We got some nice digs, and we've got a legend, and I sincerely mean that. Peter Andrew King, a man. There's no doubt about it. This guy, I mean, he wrote for the Enquirer. He Sports Illustrated for almost 3 decades. I mean, a heck of a run at Sports Illustrated. He also wrote for Newsday before he went to Sports Illustrated. NBC, Football Night in America. How about that? Pro Football Talk. Wrote 5 books. I mean, there's nothing that this guy hasn't done. In 2009, he was awarded the Dick McCann Memorial Award. You know, you talk about receivers that can play multiple positions. You talk about linemen that can play multiple. This guy could do multiple things in the media world, man. I mean, radio, television, print, you name it. Peter King excelled. Welcome, my man.
Dave, so nice to be on and to talk to you, probably for one final time, but you never can tell what the future may hold. But thanks for the invitation. And, you know, it's so, I was telling somebody over the weekend, we had a little retirement dinner for me in New York City. And
nice.
I was telling somebody that, you know, my first year covering the NFL was about as good a first year as anybody could have ever had because, you know, first of all, I go to training camp and Paul Brown is there and I watch a lot of practice with him. And so get an education from, you know, maybe the greatest football coach ever. And the coach is Sam Wyche. I'm staying up at Wilmington College in the dorm there in 1984. And Sam says, hey, anytime you ever need anything, need to know anything, just stop by my room. Usually finish by about 9:45 every night. So I don't know, probably 5-6 nights during training camp, I was able to walk down to Sam Wyche's room, I was on the same floor as him in the dorm at Wilmington. And then, you know, just the difference in how life was back then they you know, Boomer Esiason and the rookie quarterback, Chris Collinsworth, you know, Eddie Edwards and those guys. I mean, they just stopped by my room and talk. So, yeah, really a different world now, but I got a great grounding in 1984 in Cincinnati.
Boy, of all your things that you've done, and I mean, just churning books. I mean, every 2 years you were coming up with another. I think you wrote 2 in 1 year. And what's 93? You wrote a couple of books in 1 year, and then
I had written sort of a history book, a year before, but it didn't come out till then. And what was great about that is that I was able to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for a week and sort of live in the archives. And God, I learned so much. that trip really made me respect pro football history, I think, so much more than the vast majority of people who cover the league do.
So, of all the people that you've met, which person was totally different than what you expected the first time you met him, based on what you had seen, in public, and then the first time you get to meet him one-on-one, maybe in a more private environment or setting? Does anybody come to mind where it's like, man, this guy, he is totally different than what the world thinks he is?
Brett Favre in 1995.
Huh.
I got Mike Holmgren, then the coach of the Packers, to agree to let me hang around his team for a week. I did a week in the life of the Packers, and I had never met Favre before. He was just emerging. That was his first MVP year. So this was midway through the season. And so Holmgren tells his team, hey, Peter King's going to be around, going to write about us for SI. You don't have to do anything, but if he wants to do whatever, wants to go home with you and you're okay with it, go ahead. So I went up to Favre, and his first line was, he said, what, you couldn't interview Drew Bledsoe this week? That's why you're out here slumming with us? And it was like he wasn't kidding. He seemed like he was a little bit angry that the Packers have been getting ignored nationally. But so I said, wow, this guy's going to be like pulling teeth. But 3 nights that week I spent at his house. And Dave, that was the year that Favre was struggling with his addiction to Vicodin.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know. Nobody knew. I guess his wife, Deanna, knew.
Yeah.
But I mean, nobody really knew at the time. And I didn't really find out until after the season. But Favre was like a nightclub comic. And it was so different than, from the first 10 minutes I spent with him. But the whole time I knew him in Green Bay, he used to have this thing that if you come in to cover a game, he was a big believer in good luck and bad luck and everything. And so I think the first 7 times I went to cover the Packers in Green Bay, they won the game.
Huh.
So he told me after the last one, he goes, I don't care how big the game is. I don't care what the deal is. Every time you come in, we're going to dinner on Friday night. Sometimes it was just me and him. Sometimes it was his family. But, and I mean, there's so many interesting memories, but he used to love playing, having this contest where he would put on the oldies station in Green Bay, and he'd say, okay, I'll sing first. If I miss, you have to sing this song. And so the first song came on, Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. and he stumbled over a few of the words. And for some reason, I know every word to that song. And I won it. And it was funny. He talked about that for a long time, just bitter that, I wasn't ready for that. He was competing over singing Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. So anyway, he was fun. And, he's obviously had some trouble here in the last couple of years, and deservedly so, but he was a fun guy to cover.
Well, you start out in Cincinnati with Sam Wyche and Boomer Esiason. How crazy was that to be dealing with the personalities, not just the football minds of Sam Wyche and Boomer Esiason, which were like extraordinary football IQ minds, but the personalities of those guys. I mean, they were forces of nature, both of them.
The first year, I mean, the only year I covered the Bengals, I'll never forget. Sam, as you know, Dave, and I'm sure many people who are listening to this know, Sam Wyche his hobby was being a magician.
Yep.
And truly, and he was damn good at it, right. Really good.
Right.
And so the Enquirer asked me that first year, I mean, the only year I covered him, let's do something special with Sam Wyche. Let's do a big feature on Sam. Who is this guy? So I talked to him for a long time, and I got this idea that this story I was going to do on him was going to be a huge story on page 1 of the Enquirer on the first day of the football season. The Bengals opened at Denver, and on the front page of the paper was going to be a big picture of Sam. And I got this idea. I said, hey, Sam, I know this is going to sound crazy. And just think, here's a guy preparing to coach his first NFL game. And I asked him, I said, Sam, would you, if I brought a rabbit to Spinney Field, where the Bengals practice facility was, if I brought a rabbit to Spinney Field, could you wear your tuxedo with the top hat? And could we get a picture of you pulling a rabbit out of that hat? And he goes, yeah, I'd love to do that. That'd be great. So I think it was Monday of that week, early in that week, Michael Keating, the great photographer at the Enquirer, met me over there, and I went to the pet store at Beachmont Mall on the east side of Cincinnati. And I walked in, and look, when you're young, you think you can do anything. And I walked into this pet store, and I introduced myself. I said, hey, I'm Peter King. I cover the Bengals for the Enquirer, and we're taking a picture of Sam Wyche, and I want to know if I could borrow a rabbit for about 2 hours. And this guy goes, what do you mean borrow a rabbit? I said, Sam Wyche, the coach of the Bengals, he's going to pose with this rabbit. And so the guy said, well, I guess if you leave me a driver's license and credit card, I'll let you have a rabbit for 2 hours. But if it's not back here in 2 hours, I'm going to charge your credit card $100. And I said, no, I'll be back. And so I brought the rabbit over there. We got this picture of a sheepish looking Sam Wyche pulling a rabbit out of his top hat. And that was the gigantic photo on page 1 of the Enquirer on the day that Sam Wyche coached his first NFL game.
I remember it well. That's unbelievable. That was your idea, Peter King. That
was my idea. Are you
That was
kidding?
A great pick. That was awesome. that was tremendous.
Can I tell you one other quick story about that year?
Yeah.
So, okay, Dave, this was 1984. This was 40 years ago.
Right.
At the time, the big thing for kids in those days was this thing called the Sony Walkman.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Sony Walkman, you would put a cassette tape with whatever music you liked in this little rectangular yellow thing that looked like a tape recorder, but it actually played the tape back. And it had a pair of headphones, and you'd wear the headphones and listen to your music.
Yep.
So all the kids wanted them. And so that year, I asked Collinsworth and Turk Schonert, who were fast friends.
Right.
I said, hey, listen, there is this. I live near on the east side of town. I lived, right off Beachmont Avenue. And I said, there's this orphanage on the east side of town. And, this home for kind of wayward kids. And I've kind of made friends with the guy who runs it. And I want to bring a couple of players there. And Collinsworth said, well, I'll go. And I said, do you think we could, and Schonert will go, do you think we could get some gifts, any of your sponsors or anything like that? And so Collinsworth gets one of his sponsors, I don't know, to buy like 150 Sony Walkmen. And he and Schonert came, they wrapped them up with a couple of the Bengals. My wife Ann came, and we distributed the gifts. And then Sam came and did a magic show.
Wow.
And Dave, I have to tell you, over the years, I've looked back. This was late in the football season.
Right.
They
Right.
had a game that week.
Right.
And this was like a Tuesday night. I forget, maybe a Wednesday. I forget what day it was. But Sam Wyche, the coach of the Bengals, who has a game to prepare for that week, is doing a magic show for like 175 kind of indigent kids.
Wow.
And it was a fantastic event. And I've thought to myself over the years, could you imagine Bill Belichick in a game week going to do an event for kids somewhere in Greater Boston, or Bill Parcells or any? I mean, it was, but that was Sam, and honestly, that was Collinsworth. Everybody, I don't know how many people, who really know Chris. Chris is a phenomenal human being.
Absolutely.
He's just a great, great person.
Yep.
And, I'm lucky to know him. I'm lucky that I've known him for all these years. But that was a great start. Look, Dave, I've blown half the podcast with two ridiculous stories about Sam Wyche, so I apologize.
Not at all, man. That's good stuff. That's great. So let's talk about you a little bit, because I want to make this kind of a tribute to Peter King and the greatness of Peter King as well. What, in your mind, what award, you've received so many, what award is the most meaningful to you? If there is one, if it's more than one, so be it. But which ones come to mind that it's like, you know what? Wow. That's pretty, I wasn't expecting this at all.
Well, this was, I think, like 8 years ago. There's a group for writers called it used to be only writers, but now it's everybody. Now it's TV as well. But it's the National Sports Media Hall of Fame,
right,
in North Carolina. And so a few years ago, I think it might have been 18, I forget. Marty Brenneman was there that year as the Ohio Sportscaster of the Year. I spent some time with Marty. I love Marty.
Great.
And so, but I was elected to the Hall of Fame of that august group. And as I looked up and looked to see the other people in the Hall of Fame, I'm looking up and I'm seeing Peter Gammons and Red Smith and just some of the great writers in the history of our country. And it was voted on by my peers. So I think that certainly meant a lot to me, because it's something that my peers voted for.
So writing, obviously, the nuts and bolts of writing, I mean, you did it so well for so many years. The other stuff, radio, TV, it's all kind of offshoots that. I mean, you basically, your heart and soul was the written word.
It really was. I felt for a long time, even though I did go on television,
right,
even though I did do things that were more than just writing, I always felt that was my home, and that's what I really wanted to do the most. And these last really kind of 25 years writing this column, first Monday Morning Quarterback and then Football Morning in America. When I was growing up, the first person to write a really long notes column, kind of like this was Peter Gammons. And so I kind of, in many ways, I was able to tell him much later in life that he inspired me, and he's the reason why I did what I did. So I think my whole thought and my whole thought process when you got into doing all this stuff was that I just wanted to provide as much information as I could. And I loved it. I loved every moment of providing that information in that way, in the long column form. So that's what I think was probably my favorite thing to do over the years.
That was the Bible. That was the professional football Bible. There's no question about it. Peter King with that notes column. So, man, what led to your decision to retire? I mean, was it a difficult decision?
And really, Dave, you know, it wasn't a difficult decision.
It wasn't, okay.
Because, first of all, when you do something for 44 years and you cover one thing for 40 years, and for much of the last quarter century, during the season and then later, starting in about 2002, every week I wrote this column, all except for when I was on vacation, maybe 4 or 5 weeks every year. You know, writing at first 6 or 8,000 words, and at the end, maybe an average of 11,000 words a week. It's a strain. And NBC said to me, "Hey, listen, why don't you just cut it in half? It'd be a lot better on you physically, all that." And yeah, it would have been, but it wouldn't have felt like my column. And so it's just one of those things that I felt the last year or so, you know, it wasn't necessarily that, hey, you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that. I stay in decent shape and I work out and all that stuff, but I just don't think it's that healthy that when you're 66 years old, one night a week you're working till 12 or 1 o'clock. That was Saturday.
Right.
And then the next night you're working till maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. It's just, that can't be good for you. I've read a lot about the effect of sleep on people, and I was not doing myself any favors. But, and I think the one other thing, Dave, I just felt like, after you've done something for this long, you have a little bit of a feeling of, is that all there is? I love my job. I loved every second of it, and I have no idea what the future holds. I might do nothing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just felt like, are we meant to do the same thing from the day we walk off our college campus? Are we meant to do the same thing until they put us in the ground? I don't know. Some people are fine with that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have hated it, but that just wasn't the way for me right now.
I will be shocked if there's not multiple people with multiple ideas that will be knocking on your door, tapping on your window, emailing you, texting you. Peter, what do you think? How about if we do this? How about if we do that? I mean, it's going to be crazy. As the season gets closer and closer, I think you're going to get swarmed, man.
Maybe. Who knows? I doubt it, but we'll see. And you know what else, Dave? Hey, Dave, listen, it's time for young people who are really, really good. I know a lot of great young writers. I've written a little bit about this guy. He's 26 years old, Ben Solak, for The Ringer. I think he's going to be unbelievably good. He's already ridiculously strong. He's only 26. He doesn't know many people in the league yet, but he's smart about the game. He loves the game, and he wants to be great. And look, Dave, there are 100, maybe not in his league exactly, but there are so many people who are so good at this. And look, a lot of people like my column. I'm very, very grateful. But believe me, there are going to be 1,000 people who are going to do a really good job over the years, and you'll learn a lot from about the NFL.
I will say, though, in conclusion here, because I know you've got other engagements, appointments, man, every single person in the National Football League, when I say the name Peter King, you are just so highly regarded. I mean, the trust that you built up, man, everybody looked at you as like, he's the guy. Peter King's the guy. And
that's nice.
To have that kind of a reputation, having made that kind of an impact on something like the National Football League, which is like a 500-pound gorilla.
Yeah,
that has to give you a sense of accomplishment, doesn't it, Peter?
I'm very proud. I'm really I'm in awe many times of that kind of stuff. And, Dave, it's just like I never have thought of that very much until retirement, when I've heard from so many people, because, I just love doing the job. I wasn't into this job so that people would say, "Oh, Peter, you're great." Obviously, it's nice to hear it, but
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
not why I woke up in the morning. That wasn't what floated my boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell this story of, the last couple weeks I was writing this column, and I knew I was going to retire. Somebody asked me, "Well, why don't you just do a little bit of it now? Why don't you, just step back and do like a third of your column?" And I said, "Well, I need to explain this one part of the way my brain works to you." I got up the other night at 3:25 or whatever to use the bathroom. And while I was using the bathroom, I was thinking about John Madden, because something had happened the previous day. Somebody had referenced the bus ride I took across country with him. And somebody had said, "Man, can you imagine a coach retiring today at 42, which John Madden did? How incredible that would be." And so I just thought of it. Andy Reid was about to coach in the Super Bowl, or maybe he just did. I forget which week it was. And I looked it up, and Andy Reid coached 420 NFL games after turning 42. So just think about that. Think about, John Madden never coached another game after turning 42.
Right.
And Andy Reid, who is still going strong, he might, he just signed a 5-year extension. Who knows how long he'll coach?
Yeah.
But it just, the world is just so much different. But that to me is an amazing factoid. And that is how my brain, so I couldn't go back to sleep. I just, so that's one of the reasons why it's better if I go to sleep and just think about the rerun of Seinfeld that I watched the previous night, or something, or MASH. I'm into MASH now, but I don't know that I could go back and do this part-time. Again, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'll do, if I do anything, but it'd just be hard for me to keep doing this column.
Well, I can speak for everybody associated with the National Football League. Nobody, and I mean nobody, did it better. And it's well-earned and well-deserved for you to be able to spend all the time you want to spend with your family and your friends, my man. Congratulations.
Hey, I really appreciate it, Dave. Thanks a lot, and thanks for your friendship over the years. It's much appreciated.
Same here. Much appreciated on this end as well. You're the best, sir.
Okay. Take care, Dave.
Have a great one, Peter.
Yeah.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.